What a beautiful and mild winter day it is. I'm out on a 2-night hot tent backpacking trip here in the Uintas, and I'm kind of shocked at how little snow there actually is. So I opted to leave the snowshoes behind. I've got my shovel to help me clear snow for where I'm gonna set up, but kind of wanna go over the process of hot tenting and to show whether or not it's worth all of the effort and all of the gear that you need to bring to enjoy a hot tent trip. I've got a new wood stove with me that we're gonna check out. We're just gonna enjoy a couple nights here in the backcountry. So I think we would all agree that hot tenting has actually become a pretty popular and trendy thing to get out and do. I don't think people really realize the amount of work that goes into setting up the stove, processing firewood, and just making it worth all of the effort that you have to put into getting everything set up. Whereas if you were to just bring a 4-season tent and a really good sleep system, that can be probably more enjoyable for a lot of people than getting out and investing in a hot tent system. When we get camp set up and everything, we'll talk about why I think it is worth the effort, but it's not for everybody. Now, it's been a minute since there was any fresh snow, so everything is pretty packed down, and it's made walking in pretty simple. Now I gotta see if I can get across the river over here, and that's gonna determine whether or not I can set up where I had in mind. Otherwise, I gotta go look at another kind of go-to place, but I think this will work. I think I found a really nice spot to get set up here. So now the work begins to clear the snow, because I wanna see if I can get down to the ground and drive stakes into the dirt. There's really not that much snow, so it may be worth all of that effort, and then it makes getting the stove secure a lot easier. Oh my gosh. See that? It's just like sugar, and maybe 10 inches down is the ground. So there's no way that stakes are gonna go into this sugary snow. So yeah, we're gonna dig this out, dig a nice big pit, and then my chair also won't sink into the ground. Now, one of the most important tools that I carry with me when I go hot tenting is an avalanche shovel. And you don't have to spend a lot of money. I only paid 25 bucks or so for this, but it breaks down to a small package, fits into your pack really easy. And this makes such a difference in being able to clear out your area if necessary for you to get your whole tent and stove set up correctly. So I always carry a shovel every single time. Sometimes I don't use it, but when I do need it, man, I am so glad I have it, and today is one of those days. Let's get the tent set up. All right, now we'll get the inner of the tent set up here. Just gonna get everything out of the pack here. I brought way too much stuff, but we are out here for 2 nights, and I want to be comfortable and enjoying myself as much as possible. I've also got a friend showing up tomorrow, and we're gonna spend the day tomorrow together. So that'll be nice. I really like having a full inner like this on a hot tent because it just gives a spot to put all of your gear. Get it out of the snow, keep things dry. as best you can. So at this point, it's already been an hour for me to get the pit dug and the tent set up to this point. Now I still got to set up the stove, get it anchored down, and then process some firewood. So it's a lot of work, but when you're staying out for 2 nights like this, I think it's worth it. Now the wood stove that I'm working with is a titanium stove from the brand Winnerwell. And this is a new stove. I've already done the initial burn-in on it. But look at how tiny this thing is. The whole kit with the stovepipe weighs just about almost 3 pounds with some extra stakes. And I like it because this all folds out. Boom. that's that. So now we got to roll the stovepipe and get this stake down because it's so lightweight that any kind of wind or anything is going to pose an issue. So we need to get it set, get the spark arrestor on. We're going to stake and secure everything down so that it's nice and stable. You don't ever have to worry about your stovepipe coming off or this tipping over from any kind of wind from this being loose. So now this stovepipe is just a rolled piece of titanium, and it is so important that you burn this in at your home before you go on a trip, because rolling this for the first time is a pain in the rear. You want some kind of memory to be developed on this to make it easier to roll. Otherwise, what happens is you get really bad creases and it gets all crinkly and it just becomes a huge mess. Oh, really, I should have gloves on, but I'm just gonna get all the rings on here. Whoop. Oh. Ah. Of course. All right, we got the tent, the stove all set up. Unfortunately, the ground is very solid right in the spot that the stove is. And so I'm not able to get any stakes in to secure the stove down. But because I've got enough downward force on the stovepipe, it's keeping it really solid, and it's a really mild weekend. So I'm not expecting any real weather and wind gusts and stuff. So what I've got set up, I feel really confident in, and now it's time to process some firewood. Next piece of gear that is pretty much an essential for a hot tent trip like this is a saw or a hatchet or just some way for you to process wood. This, the Agua Canyon Boreal 15, is a really nice option because it's really compact, it's lightweight, fits into a pack really easy, but it gives you both a forward stroke and pull stroke cutting, which is really nice, and it's easy to carry an extra blade, and these types of saws are just really efficient in cutting quickly. Now, having the 21-inch size would make this cut a lot faster, but I'm not cutting down huge trees. I'm cutting stuff that's like the size of my forearm and smaller. So let's start cutting a little bit of wood. Then I'm gonna get my bed set up. Then we'll process more wood, and probably around sunset is when I'm gonna cook dinner. So got a little bit of time, but what I also like about processing firewood is right now I'm a little chilly. It's probably about 30 degrees out here Fahrenheit, and processing firewood will warm me up. So let's get to it. So I want small enough pieces that it's easy for me to get a fire started. Then I'm going to take advantage of this right here. All right, we're getting the bed set up. I've got my sleeping pad all inflated. What this is the Xped Ultra 7R, so 7.1 R value, and then my Cumulus Taneka 700 down cold weather sleeping bag. And then I've got 2 pillows. Look at the size of this pillow. It's ridiculous. This is from Trekology, and I don't remember the name of it, but it's like the size of a full-size pillow from your home. And then my second pillow, the Nemo pillow there. Let's just say I'm sleeping cush tonight. Well, I thought I'd come out on a little walk here and just check out the surrounding area. This is a spot that I come to very often in the summer, especially early spring when the snow is melting in the lower elevations and it's too hot and down in the desert. But it's cool, you can barely see my tent over there, so pretty hidden, which is a good thing. And the light right now is just stunning. Sun's going down, should get a pretty sweet sunset. Just really, really grateful to be outside and enjoying this right now. I wonder what the temperature is going to be like, because right here is the river. So hopefully I'm not too low that the river is a problem with just being a sink of cold air, which it probably will be. But I'm just having a great time. Now, it's actually quite common to see moose in this area. I don't know what it's like in the winter, honestly, to see wildlife like that, but the last time I was here, there was a moose like right on this hill behind me here that I'm coming down. So that was fun. Ah, this place is just so beautiful. Walking back to my tent now. Trying to create a little bit more of a walking path here. And that air got cold, man. But at least I haven't had to put my big puffy down jacket on yet. I think at this point, starting to get the stove going will be a good idea. All right, we're getting the stove going. Gonna get things heated up here because I looked at the temperature and it's already 22 degrees and it's only 5 p.m. So I'm expecting it to be pretty cold tonight. And I know that because on my carbon monoxide detector, it actually tells me the current temperature. So this is one of the most important tools that I carry with me. It is absolutely worth the weight and the bulk. It's 8 ounces or so. And it is so important with a hot tent and a wood stove to make sure that keeping yourself safe and carrying a carbon monoxide detector. So that stays out here so I don't die. Don't want that. Well, it got a bit colder than I expected it to be. I didn't think it was going to be down into the low 20s this early in the day, but that's the nice thing about a hot tent. You've got a stove that's going to heat things up, get yourself into a nice enclosed space here, and it'll make a big difference in your enjoyment level. Man, it is so cool to be out and hear the coyotes going. I love it. Well, I had dinner and I've just been laying in the sleeping bag, enjoying my quiet, and it's about 16 degrees outside right now, but it's 47 inside of the tent at about this level, which is, I don't know, 18, 20 inches off the ground. So it's cozy in here, but it's not quite as warm as other hot tent trips I've been on. I think it's because the stove that I'm working with is so much smaller than the other stove I have. So it's great that this is so tiny, and it's lightweight, but it doesn't put off as much heat because I can't build as big of a fire in there. I think at this point, I'm gonna turn in and I'll actually see you guys in the morning. So, good night. Well, good morning to you. Had a pretty cold night last night. Way colder than I expected. But it got down to 9 degrees Fahrenheit overnight. Actually got 2 Bluetooth thermometers that I've got one outside on a tree and then one over here hanging in the tent. And right now it's like 45 degrees inside of the tent because I got a fire going in the stove box. But it was chilly, and I don't let this stove run all night because I actually want to sleep. So I bring a sleep system that is actually going to function in cold temperatures, and this XPED 7R Ultra, super warm. Like, I never had cold spots, and I am right on top of the snow. And my sleeping bag, this Teneka 700 from Cumulus, I'm just cozy as a bug. But I've also got to get more firewood processed because I am completely out, and it just happened to be barely enough wood for the night. So today I've got to process way more wood because I feel like I'm going to be running the stove a bit more frequently today. But let's get out of bed and get some breakfast going and just enjoy a beautiful day. I'm gonna go ahead and start processing firewood. I just want to get stocked up as much as possible, and if I can help Jay also get a head start on some wood, that would be helpful for him. What I'm gonna try to do is find a standing, totally dead tree that is not gonna require an excessive amount of processing, but it'll be dry wood and easier to process. So Jay has made it. It's always nice when friends show up because being out in the cold when you're solo is hard, right?
Absolutely.
It's hard. So I already, like, my spirits are way better now than they were an hour ago. It's nice to have my friend here. So we're gonna help him get a pit dug and get his tent set up. Yeah, we're just gonna enjoy a beautiful day. It is beautiful. Well, the sun's out in full force now, and it's nice after how cold it was last night. Jay's just getting his tent set up. I'm actually going to pull my stove out of the tent and just kind of get it cleaned out and set up and ready for today. Once you get so much wood burnt in there, the ashes just build up a lot and then you can't put as much wood in there. So you have to essentially clean it out. And it's just one of those like maintenance things and part of the process of being out hot tenting that it's part of the work. It's part of the maintenance. It's part of making sure that you enjoy yourself and have a good time. So I think a huge thing to remember and consider when it comes to a desire to go hot tent camping is being able to go with somebody else. Whether you're sharing the tent with that person, or in my case, Jay has also got a tent. It makes a huge difference in your morale and your ability to like want to spend more time out in the cold, and it makes the work a lot more fun. Like, I enjoy hot tenting because it keeps me busy. Like, that is the big plus side to being out in a hot tent, is you've got really long nights, but when you get into the tent, you've got something that's there to keep you busy. Like, I didn't fall asleep last night until almost 10 o'clock. And that's late for a winter trip. If I had been in just my standard 4-season tent, I probably would have fallen asleep closer to like 7:30 because of it being dark and just wanting to be warm. So when you've got a tent like this, it keeps you busy, but you have to be willing to do the work. Do you agree?
Totally.
The coyotes again. I love it. I love being out and hearing the coyotes, except for when they are close enough in the middle of the night that they wake you up. It's finally starting to like warm up in here. It's feeling nice. Good morning. It is 8 degrees outside, like 80% humidity. It is so nice to just wake up, stoke the fire, and go back to bed and just enjoy that cozy warm up of the tent. Dries off all the condensation that's frozen on the inside of the tent here. That is a nice thing for sure. But it's time to start getting things cleaned up, packed up, and just head on out of here. It's been a great time. Oh, I slept great last night. I'm happy. Packs are all loaded up and on the back. We're headed out of here. It is still extremely cold and high humidity, like 10 degrees and still about 80% humidity. So that's what you get for being so close to the river and just kind of being in a sink. But there wasn't really any other options for being up a little bit higher. But it's okay. It was warm. Very enjoyable. All right, so what are the cons of going on a hot tent trip? For me, it's the added weight. It's the need for a much larger pack than you think you need. I've got a 50-liter pack, and a 60-liter would be way more appropriate for even the small tent and really small stove that I have. Other cons are it's just a lot of work. You have to have more gear with you to process firewood. You have to make sure you process enough firewood to make it so that you can continually run the stove, because those stove boxes, they're so small that they don't hold a fire for a really long time. So it's about every like 15 to 30 minutes you're feeding that stove, and then once the stove burns out when you fall asleep, it is not really relevant anymore. So you've also got to make sure you have your full winter kit, and not thinking, well, I've got a wood stove, I can carry my 3-season sleeping gear and save some weight that way. Don't do that. But then also just the idea that if you go out hot tenting, you gotta make it worth your time. So usually at this point, if I'm going to take my hot tent, I'm doing it for multiple nights. An overnight trip is really not that worth it for how much work and time goes into get everything set up to just have a fire for an hour or two, because you're not going to burn the stove the entire time that you're out. It just doesn't make sense. But the pros of hot tent trips are that you can really get comfortable and enjoy your time in the tent when it's really cold outside. So for example, it was in the teens, single digits, and inside my tent, I got it as warm as 50 degrees Fahrenheit. So that makes it very comfortable and really enjoyable to like sit and watch a movie. Whew. I should stop walking and talk. But the last thing I'll say about just the benefits of the hot tent is on those really cold nights, when you get into the tent, you don't feel like you have to be in there trying to just stay warm. Like, I sat up and enjoyed being out of my sleeping bag. Well, it's in the single digits outside and it's 45, 50 degrees in my tent. And I watched a movie and read some stuff that I've been researching, and it just, I don't know, it's comfortable. So in that sense, it's worth the work. So is hot tenting worth it? Yes and no. It just depends on your priorities and what experience you are trying to gain from going out and having a hot tent and a wood stove set up. I love it, but it's not something I want to do every single time I go out on a winter trip. It's just different priorities and a different type of experience. So there you go. We're almost back to the car, and it's just a stunningly beautiful morning. Man, I feel recharged and happy and just really grateful to have spent the time outside. So question for you is, do you want to try hot tenting? Is it something you want to get out and do as a winter activity? Or do you think it's totally unnecessary? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. Have an awesome day. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.